All of us can relate to family drama, family dynamics, broken hearts. But yet, through the pain, we can also share the good times, the love, the lifelong connection that you have with individuals or people that will be there for you when no one else will be. So, what is a family? What really makes up a family? Is it, as one definition stated, just a group of two or more individuals who are related to each other by birth, by marriage, or by adoption, who basically just live together? In times of crisis, will you be a family member who will, as another definition stated, love one another unconditionally despite shortcomings and failures? Will you support one another even when it's not easy to do so? So why turn the other cheek? My name is Linnell Townsend, and I've had over 15 years of experience working in the capacity of a DSP, which is a direct support professional. And I work through professional home caregiving agencies. I work with children and adults with physical and mental disabilities. I've also had an opportunity to work with families of loved ones with terminal illnesses and permanent disabilities. Now, if you're viewing this video, you possibly are part of a family with one or more individuals that are either dealing with a terminal illness or permanent disability, and they may require total care. So I'm here today because I would like to talk about your family emergency, your family crisis that involves every member of your family. And I like to be able to say that what a blessing it'll be to be able to put differences aside in order to work together. So if you are like many families, you're probably overwhelmed with all of the medical procedures, the techniques, the equipment, the ailment itself, and also the care that's involved that's necessary for your loved one. For this reason, I've called this meeting in order to help you to appreciate how we can work together in order to explore uh, ways that we can be supportive. I can be supportive to you, uh, even if you live far away. You may live in another state or so forth. Yet everyone can come together in order to be able to work through the problems that you deal with. I structured this meeting in a way for us to meet together as a group, as a family, but I recognize that there are a lot of conflicting schedules and so forth. So if you're not able to meet as a group to view the video, please by all means look at it as soon as possible. And I'd like to get back with you because I want to talk to each member that's able to work with me as I help you to structure a plan. With the program that I created, it will allow me to be able to have a unique plan for your family member, but it's going to be lot of a variety of tasks that each person can be able to see what you're possibly able um, to do from the list that I'll create. But to begin with, if you're dealing with one or more individuals that are has a terminal illness or permanent disability, the first thing I'd like you to recognize is that there are two individuals that are involved in this crisis. The very first person is the person or persons that are needing care. The second person involves uh, the main family caregiver. They are my primary focus. And why is it that they are my focus? Because they're working 24/7 with minimal relief. They're having to learn all these medical procedures and techniques while at the same time they're also providing care for your loved one. And this is why every sibling or every member that can, if possible, it's important that you get to know exactly what's going on with your loved one's care, what's going on with this individual. The purpose is so you can have a degree of normality in your family despite this crisis. And as a result, you can have quality time. You can have cherished memories, but not just with the person that's ill. You can also have cherished memories with one another. This versus the time that's clouded by ill feelings, by chaos and overwhelming grief. What could happen if you're not cooperative? What could happen if you don't support each other? That main family caregiver can break. And if they do, the burden of responsibility could fall upon you. I would like to talk to you about two websites that I thought were very encouraging information And there's a lot that's out there, but two videos in particular that I saw. It's going to help you to see how desperately that main family caregiver needs your help, because otherwise you could be dealing with two individual with life-threatening situations, the person needing care as well as a caregiver. The first video that I'd like you to see is called Understanding Caregiver Stress, which is a 2 minute 39-second video that's by National Hospice. Another is Who Cares for the Caregiver. It's by an individual by the name of Tony Heisman. It's a 12 minute 34-second video. Now, before I want to say that, please, by all means, look at this entire video that I have here to understand who I am and what I'm capable of doing. Immediately afterwards, I like you to look at those videos to help you to see things from the standpoint of a caregiver. But I want to give you two examples. Throughout the years, as I said, I've worked with various families and others, and some I weren't able to work with. These two touched my heart because they were dear friends of mine. So one particular situation was example of a family who, because of the dynamics in the family, they were not able to work together. And sadly, it was more than one individual that was sick that was needing care. So they weren't able to work together, sadly. So that meant that the burden of responsibility went on some of the other ones that were very sick themselves. And that's a sad situation, because if everyone came together, this is something that different ones can be able to take on different tasks. Another very sad situation was a family of three, and one individual definitely had a terminal illness. However, because the other were dealing with other ailments, then, like a domino effect, sadly, they all passed within a few months of each other. How I wished I could have helped them, but my schedule didn't permit me to do so. And as I looked at this, and what really broke my heart is that one in particular, the issues of the ailments that he had did not have to be terminal to the point that he could lose his life, but this is what happened when the sick individuals themselves had to become main family caregivers. So when I looked at those situations and others, so many throughout the years, I wanted to come up with a plan of action. After watching so many families that I knew and loved in situations like that, I wanted to know how could I help families without having to be physically present? How can I help them? So I created this program, the program that I want to be able to help your family with, and it's called a structured holistic schedule. Because with crises such as these, I wanted to create a program that would allow me to help you without having to be present with you. Now, to explain what a structured holistic schedule is, this is a plan of action that's going to be structured around your family's needs. It will allow that main family caregiver to have the skills, tools, resources, as well as additional caregivers to be able to provide the best care they can, because they will have the physical strength and mental clarity and free time from your loved one to be able to focus on their care. And why is it so important? Because a never-ending caregiving job, as you can see from these experiences, and you will see from videos too, the never-ending caregiving job can take a physical and mental toll on a person's health, and they desperately need a support system. Again, as I said, otherwise you could have two very ill individuals in your family. So since many of the individuals needing care may not have insurance, another thing I wanted to do is to help families that were not insurance and could not have professional home caregiving services. I wanted to do this program tailored around your own needs as a family for a fraction of the cost, because that way you can work in a capacity as your own agency, so to speak. Now, one of the first things that I wanted to say, when I worked through home caregiving agency, there were two main tools that they used. Without these tools, there was no agency. The first one was myself, direct support professionals. They would train us, give us the skills and tools needed in order to provide quality caregiving. So you couldn't provide caregiving without a DSP. You also couldn't provide it without an ISP, which is an individual support plan. Usually what they did, that they would structure this plan of action, and it was compiled in a binder with all of the medical needs, the elements, the physicians, the type of care, everything pertaining to that individual that was sick was inside of that binder. And what I created with my program is a similar binder, is what I would like to do for your family, but it will have other information inside too. The whole point is with the program is to holistically take all of the needs of the individual and everyone in the family, the two, into consideration to structure a unique plan. Another unique feature of my program is to generate caregivers with your help from family and friends and employment websites such as Indeed. And as a result, by training them, giving them skills and tools, they won't be professional, but they can offer some of the same quality services that a professional direct support professional the individual would be able to offer through an agency. And that means, again, as I said, you can basically act as your own agency. And there are a lot of other resources and tools that are out there that you could be able to benefit from. Another very unique service that I created with the program was to provide training. That's one of the biggest points that we will do is to train the main family caregiver as well as the additional caregivers. These additional caregivers we're going to call Team B, the ones that you have to generate. So the training is divided into three different parts and is viewed from the eyes of a DSP like myself to give these uh, uh, to give the training or some of the skills that a DSP would offer. Part A trains the main family caregiver in order to help them to show them how they can help themselves and how it's imperative that they get a support system. Part B helps that person after they've received their training and have things in place that helps them to be able to create the binder with the medical profile and other information inside about the loved one. Part C is the training that we're going to use for the additional caregivers. So, what will you get at the end of the 4-week training? You will have a binder that's structured around your family's specific needs. You'll have, our goal is for you to have reliable trained caregivers, additional caregivers in place that can work a few days out of the week and so many hours a day to support your main family caregiver. That main family caregiver, with all the resources and tools and skills they'll have in free time, will have the mental clarity, the physical strength in order to provide the best caregiving they can for your loved one. You'll have this and so much more when we're done in a 4-week training. That's what your program will consist of. Now let's talk about you. How can you help? The goal of the SHS&S team is to focus, again, as we said, on that main family caregiver, and we have a list of tasks that needs to be done that everyone involved can be able to benefit from that task sheet that you'll see what you're able to do, even if you live in another state or so forth. So the following will be able to help you to appreciate. For example, because we need as much help as possible, a person can act as the coordinator of affairs of all this going on, whether you're living in the home or with the person or not. One of the greatest supports a sibling outside of the home can do, if you're able to do so, that main family caregiver is really not going to have the time to devote towards creating that binder, that main tool. Remember, those two tools, one was the caregiver, so if I help you to get the skills that they need, the second one is the binder, filled with all the information that's going to help to train the additional caregivers, things that doctors may need, all the information about the person. But if they don't have time to go through this training, what if you could do so? What if you were able to go through the training for them and create 2 binders? Send them one and you keep the other. That way you have identical information. You know exactly what's going on. And you're filling out the medical profile of all of this information. Relay that back to the person, the main family caregiver. That way you're helping them to provide the skills that they need, or they're able to concentrate a lot more or focus on the care that's needed. The next thing that you can do, and as we mentioned too, we know that the medical profile is very important for the individual. That's going to be in the binder. That way, the additional caregivers can start right away. They'll know what they're doing. They'll know why they're doing this. And they have a list of things that they can be able to do. So we can train them to do their job as soon as possible. Another thing that's going to be needed, additional caregivers. How do you get these? either from employment sites or employment websites such as Indeed or among other family members. Well, these need to be trained. How can you train them if you're living in one state and you need some in the state of the main family caregiver? That's where Zoom comes in. You can interview them through Zoom. Look them up, find them on Indeed, Zoom with them in order to interview. And then when it comes to the legal aspects, maybe you're delegated to be able to do some of these things or not. That's something that can help to get the stress off the main family caregiver. Another thing is consulting with physicians and others involved with their care. But this is something that's very important that you keep this point in mind. You don't want to bombard or overwhelm physicians with asking a bunch of questions that can have an adverse effect on your family. But if possible, this is something that might be considered too. You can also look up resources and information. And again, you don't want to bombard the main family caregiver with all of this. But that way you're at least aware of some of the things to expect with your loved one's disease. Send this information or have that put in the binder. Help keep up with doctor's appointments. You can remind the main family caregiver some of these or find out what's going on with the disease. Be a listening ear. That's another thing. They're going through a lot, 24/7. They wake up in the middle of when was the last time they had 8 hours of sleep? 6 hours, even 4 hours straight of sleep. So be a listening ear. That's something you can be if you can't physically be there. This is something very important, especially with my dementia patients over the years. I saw this, and throughout years, information I've learned with dementia individuals. Do not become their enabler. They're going to have a lot to talk about. Some may be true, some may not. They may show a lack of respect because their brain is changing. This is all part of the disease. Encourage them to be respectful, cooperative, and appreciative of the care that the main family giver is providing, because actually all this can take an emotional and physical toll on the entire family. Marital problems or just whatever. So when you do this, you're helping to not enable the person, but you're helping them to be respectful of the care that's needed. And also something that's very important, what about the salary of the additional caregivers? Team B. What if, for example, 4 family members, 4 siblings were able to divide the care? What if one individual was able to, if you were able to provide 1 week of sending money though too to pay for the salary of the person. If you divided that up, that's taking the financial load off of one person or more. So this was a list of daily tasks and responsibilities of the main family caregiver that they may need help with. And from this list, I would like you to think about what responsibilities from this list that you can take on as you look at the list. And if you could, who could possibly help when it comes to the training that the main family caregiver can go through? And who could go through the training and create the binder to be able to support them? So, with this being said, I like to remind you, don't forget the 2 videos. Those are very, very important. But I want to ask you again, what makes up a family? Is it, as one definition stated, a group of 2 or more persons related to each other by birth, marriage, or adoption who just basically live together? In times of crisis, will you be the family member who will, as another definition stated, love one another unconditionally in spite of each other's shortcomings? Will you support one another even when it's not easy to do so? Again, my name is Linnell Townsend, and I want to let you know that I'm hoping that the information that I have will be able to be encouraging to you and your family and supportive in your time of need with the crisis that you're going through. You're in my heart and prayers, and I want to say thank you. And again, though, too, I hope the best for you and your family.